Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and today it's time to unbox HeroQuest's Hero Collection, Path of the Wandering Monk. This Hero Collection was scheduled to be released in January of 2024, but there are a lot of people reporting getting it early. I was able to obtain this product off of Amazon, although I was notified that my concurrent order from Big Bad Toy Store was also scheduled to arrive very soon. This, of course, is the character expansion for HeroQuest and requires the HeroQuest game system to play, sold separately. We're going to open this box very carefully and examine all of the contents, as well as compare this product entry with the previous Hero Collections. This Hero Collection retails for $14.99 USD on average. You should be able to get it for around that price. And as previously mentioned and disclaimed, just about any time I review a product like this is a retail product. It is not part of a limited collection or release of any kind, and you should be able to obtain this almost anywhere HeroQuest is sold. That is to say, in any country. Contents include 2 finely detailed miniatures, 7 game cards, and a scroll. Remove the scroll, figures, and cardboard inserts found inside the box to reveal the game cards. Replace the scene insert to display your figures. I can't wait to do that. First, we have to remove the wrap that came with the packaging, and this is very similar to the one that came with the Rogue Heir of Elithorn, in that it goes all the way around the box and just provides you with a really nice presentation. The box without that sleeve looks like this. It is definitely an Eastern Asian influence kind of coffer, and almost seems like I Ching inspired designs on the side. I know that this is the motif that is generally used in Windows whenever we are shown representations of Eastern Asian culture from a more feudal time period. We open the box and examine the underneath of the lid, and we are presented with the stunning presentation, the brilliantly done product placement of the monks against the curved backdrop of the arena. This is the presentation shown at Gen Con in 2023. We have instructions. Pull tab to remove figure insert, which we can do. First, however, I'm going to take out this scroll. Behind the scroll, a message. No, not the path, but the reason you walk it. So much thought has gone into this product and its presentation. It's unreal. Now, I could untie this knot around the scroll, but I think it would be better to preserve it and remove it by sliding it off rather than untying it. I may be able to roll this scroll back up and place the tie back on it without tying it myself. We can unravel this brilliantly made scroll. Tournament. First summer moon. Avoid the wilds. There has been speculation as to whether this means something. I think that I agree with the speculation that this is a clue to the release to the next big expansion, which, as we know, is against the Ogre Horde. And that does confirmed have an arena mode. So the tournament is going to definitely play a part in that. And we have a map that many now have seen and speculated on. Many have deemed this to be our map of the new HeroQuest Old World, with parallels drawn to the original Old World. Some folks have flipped this map upside down to interpret it differently, as we do here in our life and times on Earth. We do sometimes flip our maps upside down. After all, we all have a different convention of viewing the map. We have a texture on this. It's not just this old scroll. There's actually quite a bit of wrinkling that has been done on purpose. This paper has been distressed. On the other side is the flyer for the World's End tournament. Warriors, heed the call and test your mettle for glory and gold. And a picture of the stunning arena with our skulls, our upside down adorable bunnies of evil and what look like motifs of keys. So we'll place this off to the side, and then we'll continue following the instructions to pull tab to remove the figure insert. There we go. That's what they meant by that. That just removes the floor, so to speak, and we can go ahead and continue removing the backdrop for the arena. And then we have the cards sleeved within the box. These are our elemental styles for the monks, as well as the character cards for the monks themselves. But we are now able to place this back into the box, and we can see it was illustrated on the sides. Just the rest of the arena. Really? No other secret illustrations or anything except for the very top on the back side, which we can see for the most part in the front. Really cool that they gave us an interior look. Actually, that's the continuation of the exterior rising into the sky, it looks like. So that's really cool. That is really, really cool. Great image of the arena and what looks to me to be maybe the ogre throne. We'll put this back in the box now, and then we will grab the figure insert and we will take our miniatures off. Just brilliantly done. The packaging for the hero collections has been so good, and this one just knocks it out of the park. It really goes that extra mile. We've got a small tab that we have to remove as carefully as we can. Alternatively, if you don't want to mess with that, these are actually already split. They're just taped, so I could cut the tape instead of risking tearing the cardboard there. If you are like me and you want to cut the tape, be careful with your hobby knife. Don't ever cut towards you. Make sure to always cut away. And then the miniature will slide out with a little bit of wiggle, and then we are given our miniature. In this case, the female presenting monk hero. There has been some contention about the role of the monk and the end game tactics for leveling or gearing the monk, and I'll leave that out of this video. This is just an unboxing and presentation, but I thought it worth mentioning that this character does behave mechanically different from the other heroes with their elemental styles. So she looks wonderful on the board, and I'll remove my other monk. And now he is free. He is in a martial arts pose. He is ready to strike down the enemy. Who can say, really, what culture this is from? This is obviously going to be something from the known lands of HeroQuest in its contemporary form, rather than overtly a part of real-world martial arts. But together we have our male and female presenting monks, and I'll be taking the camera and giving you closer shots of them momentarily. First, we want to unsleeve the cards, and I generally don't care about preserving the sleeve. I do usually throw it back in the box, but we have our 7 cards here. Almost always we have an equipment card with these hero collections, but not this time. This time we have the 2 character cards and the elemental styles explanation card, and then 4 elemental style cards. Here are the hero cards. First of all, beautifully illustrated. A lot of us have seen these before. Very few of us are just now getting wind of this. This has been around for a while in terms of internet presence. A lot of people discovered the monk through its reveal at Gen Con, and from videos just like mine and Discord servers just like mine. So this one's not going to be giving you any new information, but it is a confirmation that the information on the cards is still consistent with what it was shown at Gen Con. The asterisk is still only on the male monk card's attack dice and not on the female. So that's interesting to see that sort of typo is there, because I'm quite certain that this was supposed to be absolutely identical across the 2 cards. There should not have been any differences whatsoever. So attack dice 1, when attacking unarmed, roll 1 additional attack die. Attack dice 1, when attacking unarmed, roll 1 additional attack die. So what's up with that? Let's turn the card around and read and remind ourselves again. These 2 cards have the exact same reading, so I will just read one of them. A student of unarmed combat techniques formed in reverence of the elements, you refuse to use armor or shields, instead relying on your heightened grace and agility. You may only wield daggers, crossbows, hand axes, short swords, and staffs. You are the monk. So this tells us that the monk is limited in what kind of equipment that they can wield as far as weapons go, and it is basically saying that you do not use armor or shields. What counts as armor is a point of contention amongst various fans. Some folks decide that there is no contention and it's quite factual what does count as armor and what does not. Others don't interpret it that way. Totally understandable. It's your game. You decide what they mean when they say armor. There are some things that are defined as armor explicitly in the game system, and so these are the things I would say 100% do not get equipped to the monk during play. That's their restriction. So you can't wear plate mail, you can't wear chain mail. These are things that I would say you definitely can't use with the monk. They won't be able to wear Born's armor. They can't wear the wizard's cloak because they're not wizards, and so on. Other than that, the monk has 1 attack dice, 3 defense dice, 6 body points, and 4 mind points starting. Next, we're going to look at their ability cards. These are the abilities of the monk, and you can use either side, giving you 8 different abilities to use in any given quest, any scenario. The card will explain it better than I can. The monk uses elemental styles, martial abilities inspired by the elements of air, earth, water, and fire. Each elemental style contains 2 techniques that can be found on either side of its card. Once per turn, choose 1 technique to activate. After you use a technique, that elemental style is exhausted. The elemental style of fire cannot be used until you have exhausted air, earth, and water. If there are no monsters in your line of sight at the start of your turn, recover all exhausted elemental styles. This means that once per turn, you simply choose one of the 3 elemental styles of either air, earth, or water, and you can choose either side as long as it's applicable to your situation, as long as any conditions that need to be met are met. Some of these are in addition to your actions. So this is really defining something that is above an action. It is sort of an overlay. Activating a technique changes how your movement and action are going to work. So for example, Tidal Surge. Activate this technique on your turn to split your total movement roll before and after your action. So you can activate this card, roll your movement dice. We'll give an example and roll the dice. We have an 8. We can now split our total movement roll before and after our action. It doesn't say explicitly how to do this. So this could be one of those things that's left up to interpretation. Do we take a die and interpret this as 4, then do the action, then 4? Or would you say, I can move 1 to 8 spaces on my turn, then do an action such as an attack, and then simply move the remainder? That's how I would do it, because that's the most liberal reading of this rule, and I think that that's rule as intended. Or would somebody interpret this as roll 1 die, move or lose whatever you want on this die, so move up to 4 spaces, then stop, then do your action, then roll the second die, rather than having a choice. These are all just options, and this is just an observation I'm making. I'm not pushing for any one particular interpretation, just asking the question to my fellow Zargons how they might interpret it and how they might play it. I'll have my own play style, and you'll have yours assuredly. Twisting Torrent is on the opposite side, and you don't have to pick one side or the other. You can choose whichever side meets your needs. Activate this technique when you take damage to cancel that damage. After use, the elemental style of water is exhausted. So on your turn, you can activate an elemental style, and it will actually stay in effect after your turn, during Zargon's turn, and it's only on the turn after when you are able to choose a different style. Now, this doesn't say when this expires, so we're left with already another ability that might need some interpretation. Does this simply last forever? You can activate this technique, and now you've activated. You don't need to necessarily take damage. This is activated. This is already exhausted because it was activated after use. After use, does this mean after it's been activated or after the effect has been carried out? I'm reading this as after it's been activated. So activate this technique when you take damage to cancel that damage. Now, the reason I'm speaking about this as if it's something you activate on your turn instead of reactively after you may have activated another elemental style is because that's what it says in the card. There are no room for exceptions on the card. So I'm interpreting this as though you say, I activate this, and that becomes valid. This becomes exhausted, and now After you take damage, you'll cancel the damage because of Twisting Torrent. This doesn't say, oh, you may use an elemental style during Zargon's turn, or even if you've already used another elemental style. It doesn't say that. It does say once per turn, and it doesn't specify the monk's turn. Perhaps you are able to use an elemental style on every other hero's turn and on Zargon's turn. I really don't think that that's the interpretation at all. I think that that would be kind of absurd, quite frankly. So I do think that during your turn, you would say, rules as intended, use Twisting Torrent, and then you would exhaust it. Now, the exhausting, I don't know how you would say your card is exhausted now. Perhaps you just turn it to the side. You can just remember it. Zargons and heroes alike, you can put it away from the other cards. But once you have exhausted all of these cards, you are now able to activate either of the fire techniques. And they have a little reminder down here at the bottom. The air, water, and earth elemental styles must be exhausted before activating the elemental style of fire. Burning Spirit. As an action, expel a beam of brilliant energy from your soul's core. This beam may be straight or diagonal and continues until it meets a wall or closed door. Each enemy in the beam takes 2 body points of damage. After use, the elemental style of fire is exhausted. This is an awesome attack. It doesn't quite follow the regular line of sight rules. So if my male presenting monk here is the enemy and my female is the hero, this would not be a valid attack because it's not rules diagonal. This would actually be in line of sight. Yes, this is valid for line of sight, but this would be valid for diagonal. So it almost seems like this is pretty telling that it means either orthogonal cardinal direction or diagonal strictly. Let's look at the earth elemental styles. We have Strength of Mountain. Roll 2 additional attack dice on an unarmed attack. After use, the elemental style of earth is exhausted. So remember, using or activating an elemental style does not in and of itself constitute an action. It simply defines what your actions can be, how they're supplemented for your turn. So this is saying if you activate the Strength of Mountain, that you're going to be able to roll 2 additional attack dice on an unarmed attack, which you should be unarmed unless you've gone for one of the weapons that were covered on their character cards. So 2 additional attack dice on an unarmed attack, you'll be able to attack an enemy for a total of, I would say, 4 attack dice without even having to gain any new weaponry or buy anything at all. You can do this in Quest 1. You can do this in the trial. You can have your unarmed attack, roll 1 attack dice plus the additional, and then if you've activated Strength of Mountain on your turn, you're rolling an additional 2 attack. You've got all 4. After use, the elemental style of earth is exhausted. On the other side is Speak with Stone. Search for secret doors and traps as one action. After use, the elemental style of earth is exhausted. So this one's really cool. Very much just utility. You are able to get through a room quickly. It does not say which one of these must be done first. Perhaps that is completely up to the hero. A quest creator might decide that a secret door is trapped. I don't know that I've ever seen an example of that, but it's still something that could happen. Then this card is exhausted. Let's look at the wind elemental styles. This is Eye of the Storm. As an action, make 1 unarmed attack against all adjacent enemies. This technique enables you to attack diagonally. After use, the elemental style of air is exhausted. This one's extremely useful. You've got 2 attack dice that you can now roll on all enemies that are all around you. If you come into a room and there is a group of enemies, you'll be able to attack many of them at the same time. This kind of puts the monk in a dangerous position, but it rewards the player for doing this and taking this risk. It is a great reward if you are able to take down many of the monsters in a room at the same time. But would this be better than, say, Soaring Dragon? Automatically succeed when jumping over a trap. After use, the elemental style of air is exhausted. This need not be just a pit trap. This just says over a trap. So anytime you want to perform a jump over a trap, you will automatically succeed. Again, it is not specifying for how long this effect lasts. If the exhaustion happens after the success of jumping over a trap is automatically applied, or if the card is exhausted and then the effect simply continues to apply the next time you need to jump over a trap, you'll automatically be able to do so. It's tough to say exactly what stacks, what kinds of buffs are you placing on your character? There will be edge cases where it seems unfair to the monk player if they are restricted with the usage of these and are not able to carry them beyond their turn because of the strange sort of edge cases where the monk won't be able to reuse these cards in a way that's helpful. You may get to a point in a quest, for example, where you don't need to use Speak with Stone, or you're not allowed to research a room for secret doors or traps. Strength of Mountain is very useful, but you can't use it at all if there are no enemies. At least depending on how you interpret the usage of the elemental styles and their effects. And if you can't search a room for secret doors and traps because you've already done so and there are no enemies, you're not going to be able to use the elemental styles of Earth anymore, which really in and of itself is not too much of a problem, except it kind of ensures that once you are out of the line of sight of enemies and all of your elemental styles are recovered, you won't be able to use the elemental style of fire. It is a bit of a point of contention. I can see this being a big discussion amongst players. There might be a lot of agreement amongst players who have like minds, and I would love to hear your thoughts on your interpretations of how long these apply, why you think that is the case, and what kind of problems you foresee happening with your monk players. I know a lot of you have already played HeroQuest with proxies for the monk because we were able to see the cards, and so people have actually been playing with this hero, their own version of the hero, and their own version of the assets used to represent this official hero, and so you may have already come across several of these problems and edge cases. Tell me in the comments below what you did to resolve them, if it was even a question, or if it was a great source of debate throughout your game night. Burning Spirit is still a really cool ability because you can damage many enemies in a particular path until this hits a wall, which means if you are standing in a hallway and there's a door and there are enemies, and even if there are heroes in your line of sight, once you use Burning Spirit, that beam of brilliant energy from your soul's core is going to rip through Dread Warrior armor, pass right through barbarians and dwarves. They will remain unharmed because they are not enemies, and go right through the heads of goblins and the torsos of orcs and completely take out any sort of skeletons or zombies in its path until it hits the brittle rock wall. And this is automatic. This is not something that they are able to defend against. It simply means that they take 2 points of damage. 2 body points of damage is enough to absolutely murder almost all of the monsters in the game system. And this isn't something that you'll only have the one and done opportunity to use. If the quest gives you enough opportunity to use your other elemental styles, you'll be able to exhaust them and then use this again should you have to, making the monk very useful in campaigns like Keller's Keep or Return of the Witch Lord, where there are many more enemies per quest on average. The other side of this is Touch of Endless Inferno. As an action, inflict 1 body point of damage to any one adjacent enemy. The target takes an additional 2 body points of damage at the end of its next turn. So basically, this is our first sort of glimpse into DOTs, dots, or damage over time. I know that we do have poison in the world of HeroQuest, but this is the first really effective use of a damage over time mechanic I've seen, where you will light an enemy ablaze. It'll suffer a point of damage, and most enemies will simply die with 1 body point of damage. So this is actually just a very effective attack. You can't defend against it. It just happens. But at the end of that enemy's next turn, they will simply lose an additional 2 body points. That is all there is to it. The flame has overtaken them and they are out. There are no exceptions to be made. The enemy has been torched by Touch of Endless Inferno. So that is very interesting, very, very powerful technique, very useful against boss monsters. All right, I think I've covered just about everything that came with this hero collection. Now I would like to do some comparison shots. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Please comment anything you'd like down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, onward, brave heroes.